everybody? Welcome to our second installment of our Future of podcast. It's so great that you guys are tuning in. And today, it's me and Josh once again. And we were talking before this about movies, and Josh brought up a really good point about a movie called Les Mis.
Yes.
So tell us about Les Mis.
So I got a story.
Tell us how you spell it first.
It's got it has a silent Q in the beginning.
Yes.
It's got the little apostrophe. And then lay is actually spelled Lay. A lot of people know.
They don't know that. Right?
I should not clean my eyes.
While you're speaking.
Sorry, guys.
Funny, unless you want to.
So, I remember when the movie first came out, a couple of friends, and it was literally like a huge group. It was like 8 or 9 of us. This is pre-COVID, of course. We were like, dude, let's go watch this movie, Les Mis. And there was
what
like
an easy thing to do, right?
Yeah, it was like it's like okay, yeah, for sure. But the thing is that I had already gotten to the place where I was consuming online and stopped watching TV. So I really I can't watch TV to this day without getting really frustrated at commercials. It's like my biggest frustration to be watching something and then it's like commercial pops up or whatever, right?
My mom and dad still watch TV,
dude,
and I'll sit through those commercials with them. Like,
actually, my parents do that as well, but they've just started transitioning. Like they both have tablets, and
that's
just
great.
They're loving it. They're loving it. And so because I was watching online, I hadn't seen any trailers for Les Mis. And I just heard Russell Crowe, freaking Hugh Jackman plays Wolverine, and I was thinking French Revolution. I was like, yo, this movie's gonna be popping.
It's gonna be sick.
Is that too much?
I love it.
And so we show up, the movie starts, and I just played the intro for you, right, so that you could imagine it, kind of through my perspective, and in the intro scenes, it says this is the French Revolution, and then it cuts to Hugh Jackman in the water with a bunch of other people who are slaves, and they're pulling a boat, and then Russell Crowe is on top of the boat, right? He's leading, and so for me, I'm thinking this immediately has established the protagonist and the antagonist, right? Hugh Jackman is clearly he's the action hero, plays Wolverine,
right?
And Russell Crowe, freaking the gladiator, right? I was like, what an iconic duo to go right into this. And so, and then the music starts getting rhythmic, and then Hugh Jackman starts singing, and I kid you not, I'm in theater, and everybody that's sitting on the right of me, who came to watch the movie, the group of friends, they're all expecting it. They know that it's a musical, and I didn't know how to react. I was literally doesn't compute. I don't understand.
Did you walk out?
No, I endured.
I can't. The music.
I tried. I mean, there's an art to
for sure
to it, but here's some things I recorded about my experiences, and I know then you want to share something about the Avengers, right?
Sucked. I hate it.
It was horrible.
The worst.
Yeah, that's all I wrote. No, so I wrote down take a sip here.
There's nothing in that.
There's nothing in there.
Watch, pour it over your head.
Shoulder. So I realized I didn't watch the trailer, but I went into the movie with a completely different expectation of reality. I was telling you, it's the memes, right? Of expectation versus reality, right? Yeah. And in my mind, I'm okay, this is gonna be an amazing action movie or whatever. And so then you experience the initial shock of it being a musical,
right?
And you're just kind of I'm I'm about to spend the next 2 hours listening to Hugh Jackman sing, and unpopular belief, he's not good at singing. I said it. He's not good.
I never heard.
He's not good. He's not good.
I believe you.
No, he's not good.
He did that other movie too, right? The freaking circus one.
Yeah, I just tried to to burp quietly. And
I hope everybody
I realized,
we have to do that.
I realized there's no way to like. Anyways,
It's literally right here.
so like I experienced the initial shock of it being a musical, and then you have to adapt your expectation to appreciate it, right? So I have a choice to make. Like, okay, like it's gonna be 2 hours. It felt like 10 hours. It's gonna be 2 hours of people singing.
Yeah.
And so I have to change my mindset of like what's gonna happen to really appreciate the art of that movie, right? So just recognize, like, all right, that's a musical. That's the genre.
Right.
That's the genre of this musical. There's a connection there. What's the genre of this year?
Wow.
What is it? Anyways, go to Avengers and then we'll talk about it.
No, yeah. I love that. Dude, so talking about trailers, like, you went into the movie not knowing at all what it was about, but not for a lack of
also not knowing the genre.
Or the genre, yeah, right? But you did that because you just the trailer never popped up for you, right?
Yeah.
I did that for Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, but I did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Because I just did not want to know what the movies were going to be about. Like, obviously you had a general idea, because like Thanos, obviously the Infinity Stones, like every Marvel movie was leading up to that.
And even if you read into the comics, you knew where it was going to go.
Yeah.
Just not fully how it was going to get.
Exactly.
Like the details of how it was going to get.
Or even if they were going to change things up.
Yeah.
Like, so I remember just for Infinity War, that whole year of just like trailers and everything, I didn't watch a single one.
Yeah.
Went into the movie, left me speechless, right? And I'm talking Infinity War. If you guys, because everybody's conflating them together right now. Infinity War, that movie left me shook. Dude.
Tom Holland as Spider-Man, the last scene.
Where's the start? Wait, people don't know.
Bro, no.
Well, here, I get what you're saying.
Okay, this is years.
Yeah.
This is now years. If you have not seen it,
It's because you don't want
that's
to.
on you. Yeah.
It's the start.
Dude, that was the saddest part.
Oh, gosh.
Man, I feel like there's like a spiritual application somewhere here.
there.
Caster.
But I just want to talk about Avengers, to be honest.
I mean, something like, even if we could see a trailer for the future of our lives, would we? Because you see, there's no trick. But it's just,
Wait, I want to get to that. I want to get to that. But actually, what I want to talk about, well, because I want to get you to tell the story, actually.
Sure.
Is because
surprise story.
the second, no, you know the story. Well, obviously.
Oh yeah.
So like, well, let me lead up. I didn't watch any trailers again for Endgame, right? And Infinity War is the biggest drop off, right? Like, how it ends just leaves the viewers just like in turmoil. Right?
I feel it right now.
I know. And then here comes Endgame, and again, I didn't watch any trailer or anything, right? Because you just want the movie to be a surprise, like you want to know what happens.
You abstained from like.
Right. And for me, it worked out successfully because I watched the whole movie not knowing at all what was going to happen, and it just shocked me, right?
Yeah.
But for you, I know did you watch the trailers?
A little bit.
Okay, so you knew a little bit, but you still didn't know the whole story, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And then what happened? Like,
so we go with Isai, Hazel, and Val, and honestly, Isai tells us in such a better way than I do, because he makes you think about how like Endgame is 10 years in the making of tension. Right? And so Isai talked about how like successfully for 10 years we've dodged every spoiler to the movie so that you can experience the movie in the best way. Right? And we finally show up to the like pinnacle moment of the movie of watching Endgame. We're in theater, we've got our food, we're sitting down, and then that intro track starts, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh snap, it's about to start. And then the like Marvel comic thing rolls out and it starts to like flutter. Right?
Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah.
And we're like, dude, like we did it.
Yeah.
Like we made it. Like we made
No
it.
spoilers,
we made it
no
to the movie.
no trailers.
10 years in the making. And 5 minutes into the movie, and I'm gonna say the spoiler. 5 minutes into the movie, girl,
spoiler alert.
A girl runs in with her friends and says, "Iron Man dies."
Oh my goodness, dude.
And the whole theater just kind of like everybody audibly just like groans. There's like an ache, right? Of like, dude, like we've battled 10 years to get to this point.
Like the biggest, probably the theatrical event.
It's like the twist of the story. And this girl just ruins it. And so we're watching the rest of the movie knowing like Tony Stark's gonna happen.
Dude, that's
Anyways.
I don't know if I could endure that.
Dude.
Like to watch the whole movie knowing what was gonna happen. Because they set it up so well, right?
They did.
Like even when his daughter, I love you 3000. That broke my heart, bro. That just broke my heart. Anyways, what we wanted to talk about then,
For sure.
is like to talk about trailers, right? Where you said about Les Mis, like you didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
You got into it was nothing at all what you thought it was going to be, and you had to learn to live with it, to endure that movie, right?
Yeah.
Sorry for all the musical fans. I'm not a musical guy, but I can see the art in it. Then we're talking about Avengers, right? Like I refrained from watching the trailers even though I could because I wanted the surprise, right? And now, currently, we're living in the wake of a year that has been tumultuous. Like it's just been crazy.
Yeah, well think about like so we went into vision casting for 2020.
Right.
And we even said stuff
All
like
2019.
we even said stuff like we're not going to use Vision 2020 because it's too cheesy.
It's
like
too cheesy.
we're gonna come up with like a dope way of planning for what the new decade is going to be like.
Exactly. And that's the thing, dude. There was just so much hype over 2020 because it wasn't just a new year, right? This was like marking a new decade.
Yeah.
I think when you think about the past, it's always marked by decades. Like you think about the 20s, the roaring 20s, you think about the 50s, or, you know?
Right.
Like this was the start of a new decade, and we just had the biggest expectations for
And
this year. It was just nothing.
It just tanked.
Yeah.
It tanked, dude. And so I wanted to connect this with what I was sharing about Les Mis and even what we're talking about with Avengers. When your expectation fails,
Yeah.
you have to make a choice to adapt your expectation, to render meaning out of the thing that you're looking forward to,
Yeah.
right? So like for example, it's just like this year has been really difficult, but if you adapt your expectation, this year has been very revealing,
Right.
on like the human heart and identity, the identity crisis
Right.
of humanity, right? So I wanted to talk a little bit about how when we go through adversity or when we face a crisis, the loudest part of our identity, the loudest part of our character surfaces
Right.
in that moment, right? So like if one of the things that you struggle with a lot, that's like just a loud part of who you are, is self-doubt or anxiety. We talked a little bit about if it's narcissism, and just kind of like the loudest thing about your identity
Right.
often surfaces when adversity pushes on you or crisis arises, right? Like then this thing is like revealed.
Yeah. You know what that kind of reminds me of, actually? This might not be a good connection, but hopefully it is. I remember one
Rick
time...
and Morty, when he becomes a pickle, what is it?
Pickle Rick? Oh man, we gotta be careful there. Oh, Pickle Rick. That I remember he was just
Insane.
calling Morty.
Insane.
He's like, flip me over. I'm a pig. Oh man, don't watch that show unless you want. No, what I was gonna talk about was, I remember one time I was interning at this church and I was trying to build up like their worship culture.
Sure.
Now mind you, I know a little bit about how to play guitar and how to, so it was kind of difficult, but one of the things that I was trying to get these students to like understand is like you need to practice in order to sound good, right?
Yeah.
Which of course there's this thing about worship, like you don't always have to sound good, right? It's more about the heart, but at the same time,
Let's go.
you gotta want to sound good, right? And the thing is, if you want to sound good, you gotta practice, right?
For sure.
And one of the things that what I spoke to him about is because like the thing was like the Bethel spontaneous deal, like that's something that people want to do, just like keep playing and like allow moves, like time for the spirit to move or whatever. And that is incredible, right? But people forget that like you have to practice so well that when it comes that moment to be spontaneous, like you know how to do it. It's like when in football, you know this one.
I love the sports.
You know, I know everything about sports.
Ask me anything about any team.
1930. I don't even know the year.
Sorry,
I know
keep
nothing
going.
about sports. Okay, anyways. So in sports, like you do a lot of planning, right? Like you have to, well, I'm guessing. Like in football, we're gonna talk about football right now. If you know football, don't comment on anything I'm about to say. If you don't know football, tell me that this is great. I'm just kidding. So in football, you have different plays, right? Right? And you guys run through the drills and you understand like when they say hike 3 times or whatever it is, like you know what to do. But as prepared as you can be for like the play, there's still that element of surprise that unless you've prepared for a moment like that, you're not going to be able to react, right? And I think that's kind of like what we're feeling here in 2020, where we had these expectations and we've had this desire for this year, this decade to be incredible, but there's that surprise element, right?
Yeah.
And we found ourselves kind of in shock of everything seeming just to go downhill. I mean, right now as we're recording, we're surrounded by fires.
Yeah,
our
like
entire
the
state,
drive over here, right?
was
intense. Like there's so like you cannot see past maybe
you can't see the
20,
mountains,
30
right?
yards, right?
Yeah.
It's like just like you're driving into a white cloud right now.
Dude, I woke up this morning smelling smoke. Like my windows open and I literally thought my house was on fire because like this year is just crazy. Like COVID, racism, police brutality, Black Lives Matter, like everything seems to have hit this year, right? Yeah. And I think what you were saying is that what speaks the loudest in our lives that we like run to is what's surfacing right now. It's like in tragedy or in conflict or in situations like this, what we allow to speak loudest in our life is what's gonna show up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So like there's so many videos circulating of, in my opinion, what are like killings, right? And like what is loudest about the person watching the videos tends to show up in the comments, right? And so a person of faith who is interested in the development of the kingdom sees a video like that, and if they comment, it comes from a place of like, here's what we believe the kingdom of heaven is, and it should be like. And so their comments in the thread are going to be about everyone involved in this video is a child of God, right? And so how do we get each person to see that? A person who like the loudest thing about them is local politics or even nationwide politics, they'll watch a video like that, and the first comment that comes from them, it would be classified as like a political one, right? And they'll say stuff like, the freedom of like using a textbook situation of deviance or of crime that justifies the shooting, right? And but what I would say is like that explanation is so far from the explanation that Jesus offers, right? So that when somebody when somebody gets shot and killed, Jesus doesn't go to, well, what was the textbook explanation on why that can happen, or why it happened the right way, or do you understand what I'm saying? So like, I'm suggesting that when the loudest part of your identity is being a child of God, that you look at these situations in a completely different light. And in City on a Hill, this series, we've been talking about what makes the church distinctive. Right? And what I'm saying is, politic is not what makes us distinctive. Right? It's being vocal about how Jesus handles situations and how Jesus treats people. Right? And so I want to be loudest about speaking the truth of who Jesus is in our community, who he is in my life, and how he sees us. Right? And the thing is, like, when we shape our identity, it's shaped by a cluster of experiences. And so here's what I mean. Like, your understanding of your worth, of how much you are loved, is shaped by all the experiences you've had of people that tell you that you have worth, people who have shown you love, people who have, and everyone has really loud experiences or loud memories in their life that is the thing that is right in front of them when they see themselves, right? And what I'm saying is, like, when you step into being aware that you are a child of God, that becomes the loudest story of your life, and that story begins to shape the meaning of every other story in your life, and of how you that's the overflow of, like, how you move in the world, right? And so what I'm seeing is that more than needing leaders who recognize their influence in our community, more than needing people who are oriented towards local politics, like, more than any of that, I'm saying that the call that God is making on us is to be leaders who have compassion. In essence, dude, just to be people who see everybody around us as children of God, right? And when you do that, this changes your expectations of people. It changes your expectation of how a year plays out. And I think it makes you meet some of these moments with a different energy than everybody else is.
Right. Yeah. I'm loving what you're saying, bro. And I want to add more to what you're talking about, compassion. Because I feel like right now there's this tension between certain groups.
Yeah.
And often when you hear the conversation, it lacks a lot of empathy, it lacks a lot of compassion. And case in point is what you're saying is that sometimes the first response from someone isn't to mourn the death of someone, right? But it's a validation of why that happened the way it did, why that was okay, right? Yeah. And of course there are a lot of intense situations, and we're not saying that police officers don't have a difficult job, but our response to an event like this can be more compassionate, right? It can be more empathetic to people who are being hurt. And what I'm recognizing is that if we lack compassion, then we will always be divided. Like, if you don't have compassion and empathy for someone, you will always be pitted up against each other. And case in point, for in my life, this is more of a lighthearted explanation, but I remember one time I was hanging out with Natalie. Oh, no, we weren't hanging out. It was morning time, getting ready for school. And I'm the older brother, which some people think that we're twins or the same person. That happened the other day. I don't know how they thought we were the same person. How?
When she bleached her hair, like, people were like, wait, what? There's two of them.
There's two of them. Anyways, so one morning, I was probably like, 13, Natalie was 10, getting ready for school, and you know, I'm the older brother, and I just love to pick on her. And I remember one day, it was like half on purpose, half on accident. But I like ran into her room and started like saying all these things to her. I forget what I was saying, but it was for sure making her angry, right? And she gets mad at me. She begins chasing me. So like I run into my room and I take the door and I close it, and I forget that I have this pull-up bar like in my door, like the door frame that to do pull-ups on. And as I close it, it hits the pull-up bar and it tips, and it comes down and it smacks Natalie in the head. And like immediately, it's just like blood-curdling cries, right? Like,
oh.
But was she, like she's bleeding?
Yeah.
No, she's not bleeding.
Why is there so much blood?
There's no blood, but she's crying, right? And part of me is like, oh no, like she's gonna get me in trouble. Well, that's probably the whole part of me during that time, actually. And of course, my parents hear the cries, and so they come over.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't care, essentially, because I'm just like a jerk kid that didn't want to apologize. I remember just feeling that tension of like my parents having to tell me to apologize, and it was just this tension of like I messed up, but I don't want to admit that I was wrong.
Right.
And you know, in this situation, I was in the wrong, but I can't. There's been other situations with Natalie where like both of us felt so much anger to each other that there was no way that we were going to unify if one of us didn't speak up, if one of us didn't choose to be the one to say like, I'm not going to act out in violence, I'm not going to act out in anger, and I'm going to choose to love even in an instance like this. Dude, Naruto taught us.
I was actually thinking,
yeah,
I was thinking about a Naruto reference, but I was like, I don't know if we're ready.
Let's bring him into it, dude.
Well, I was thinking of like when you said that you were chasing
you thought I was running like this, didn't you?
Yeah. No, I was thinking of Boruto, the series.
I haven't seen it.
When, because he's getting chased by his sister.
Okay.
And then she gets so mad that it activates her eyes. The Byakugan, you know what I'm talking about?
Byakugan.
And she palm hits Naruto.
The dad.
Yeah. I want to talk about. Yeah.
I know who his wife is.
No, I know, but and it completely knocks him out. So that was my like, and he misses the coronation of becoming Hokage.
Oh dang! Because his daughter hit him.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Anyway.
No, but let me make one more connection in Naruto, because this is so good. In Naruto, remember when he has to go to this. I don't want to reveal too much on Naruto, but
well, it's also been years.
That's okay. We're gonna just reveal things. Sorry for all those who hate spoilers. But if you haven't seen it by now,
yeah, like this is like years.
Yeah, you've chosen not to watch. Okay, so Naruto essentially is protecting Sasuke, right?
Against Cloud.
Yeah, exactly. And what's the name of, you know, that guy with the 8-tail, his brother though?
Lord B.
Lord B. Okay, so he's the brother, right?
Dude, I'm actually having so much fun talking about
this.
Yeah, this
is great. I love this. But I just remember, Naruto. No, let's start here. Everybody's trying to kill Sasuke.
Yeah.
Right? Sasuke has.
Oh, you're talking about like the Raikage.
Yes. Raikage. Yes, exactly.
Because he had to chop his own hand off.
He chopped his arm off to get away from Sasuke.
From Amaterus?
I'm forgetting.
The Black Flame?
Yes. Oh, yeah, dude. Anyway, so essentially, for those of you guys who don't watch Naruto, everybody's trying to kill Sasuke. Sasuke is Naruto's friend.
His best friend. Yeah.
Best friend. But Sasuke hates Naruto, but Naruto's been trying to chase him down.
Yeah.
Really prodigal son story in a sense. And everybody's trying to kill Sasuke, but Naruto is like the only one willing to stand up for him. And they're in this war, and I remember Naruto comes to a place where he is faced with the Raikage, and I think he's just like beating him up at certain points, but Naruto chooses a stance of non-violence.
Yeah. Willing
to like give up his position so that Sasuke would be saved and so that the war wouldn't happen, right? And I remember I watched that probably. I watched it a little bit more recently. I didn't watch it when it came out. I watched that when I was probably 19,
yeah,
or something like that. And I remember just being filled with like this this inspiration of like, wow, in order for there to be resolution sometimes, somebody has to be willing to just
stand in the middle of it.
Stand in the middle of it and choose like I'm just not going to fight back, which is an interesting thing. And I'm not saying not to defend yourself or anything like that, but it's just an interesting thing when you choose compassion and empathy and choose to act in love rather than anger or hate. That's when we see the most change, right? And I wonder how much of that today in 2020 would, again, like people will make their decisions and you can't necessarily change people. But what would it be like if we chose to act in love and nonviolence? What would it look like for our leaders to make unifying statements rather than statements that divide? I just wonder where 2020 would go if that was where we acted. If the loudest thing that spoke from us in moments of tension was, I'm a child of God, they're a child of God. If we want unification, I have to choose to love right now. I can't choose to hate. I can't choose to act in violence. Like I need to be the one to just be the first to say sorry, essentially. Not say sorry, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Be the first one to move in love.
Yeah, man, I feel like a natural part of our identity as Crosswalk Future of is to think about the future that God is calling us into. And I've been thinking about how the future that God calls us to is anti-racist. Like there's no
middle ground.
There's no middle ground. And so someone has to stand in the middle of that, right? And I think regardless of where somebody lands politically, or even in their own Christianity, on the tension that like our communities are facing between police brutality, movements like Black Lives Matter, and then the identity of our Black community being challenged and being, in essence, hurt, right? I'm saying, in context of all of that, the future that God calls us to is anti-racist.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have to become loud about that, right? If we're going to create the future that God believes in and is calling us to. Regardless of like where we stand individually on some of these issues, I feel like the thing that should be loudest about us right now is like, oh, I'm a child of God.
Yeah.
Child of God, child of God, child of God, child of God. And so we're going to be anti-racist.
That's it. For sure. I think when we choose to be our true selves, child of God, often that will create tension. Maybe we can know this. If not, if it's
Yeah,
bad,
I think so.
Often when we are our true selves, a child of God, it'll create tension with people who either don't want to recognize it or haven't yet recognized it for themselves. And often the biggest changes in the world haven't happened without some kind of tension. There's always some kind of turmoil that happens before real change. And one of my friends recently posted this. That was a spider. Sorry, everybody.
Oh my God.
The spider today. One of my friends recently posted this thing by Bonhoeffer, theologian,
Spy.
and spy, yes. And essentially, paraphrasing what he was saying is that often we'll associate the move of God with peace and unity, but sometimes the move of God is more clearly seen in deconstruction and not chaos, but turmoil, and that actually may be more of an indicator of God moving than if we were just the way we were yesterday.
Because God is moving in a certain direction, it creates tension,
Yeah.
crisis, adversity.
Exactly.
Like something's trying to push on the thing that God is doing.
Which, for some hope for us, as we are growing nearer to the end of 2020, is tension is pointing to the move of God. That there's still a brighter tomorrow, that we are moving forward, and the way to get there is going to be, I need to recognize that I am a child of God, and because I'm a child of God, I am going to be anti-racist.
Yeah.
I'm going to see other people as children of God, and I think if we can center in on that, we will become more in tune with the move of God, and we'll be more in tune with what tomorrow can look like.
I feel like at the beginning of 2020, I know you remember this. We were talking a lot about like open hands and just being open to the thing that God would do next.
Yeah.
And I feel like through the pandemic, we had a very real experience of why being in person is actually really essential. Right?
Yeah.
We can do everything that we can do online and in a digital format, but it turns out the thing we need the most is like good human contact and human connection, right? And then the other thing that I feel like culture just got awakened to is the difference between being not racist and being anti-racist, right?
Yeah.
And that was like, if you want to move in the direction that God's moving, you've got to come to terms with those ideas, right? In-person matters, and like anti-racist is a big part of the church, right? We've got to name that. And I even think about when I think about Paul in the New Testament, he's like Jesus. He's outlining. He's creating moments of like being anti-racist, right? Yeah.
It's good, bro.
That's a good word.
Yeah.
Words of hope.
Words of hope. We're going to be meeting in person soon. I don't have any other words.
That's
of
great.
hope.
No, yeah.
We're going to try moving to in person. This is going to be coming out next week. So next week is actually going to be our last online service. We'll still put our content on Instagram and YouTube, but we are going to be moving into in person. So check our Instagram because we are going to be gathering in person. We're going to do safely. We're going to wear masks, right? We're not going to be high-fiving, but we are going to worship together. We're going to gather together. We're going to hang out together. So be looking forward to that. So hey, love you guys so much. We'll catch you guys later. Bye.
Bye. Love it.